Update. Hold on.
Looking this up. Oh, Travion Henderson scored another touchdown. Let's go. I
Oh, that's
started him this week.
big. I started him in my league that is a little lackluster. Or I'm actually no, that's my second place league, but I was like projected to lose by 15 points. So that's huge. All right, guys, it's college basketball season. It just started. We just had the third game of the Gonzaga basketball season, and they beat Creighton by 27. Quite the game. And we are here with our resident Gonzaga basketball expert, John Rosenberger. We're going to talk to him and discuss some UW teams, and then we'll eventually get to the Mariners, Seahawks, all that good stuff towards the end of the pod. But this first half hour maybe is going to be about college basketball and kind of the state of affairs there. So anything to say from you guys before we hop into the Coyote Picnic intro?
Glad to be here.
Coyote Picnic star, John Rosenberger, also dabbles with the Zags.
Yes.
I wasn't even thinking about that aspect of it. But yeah, no, man, excited. The Zags are off to a rip-roaring start to the year. I love previewing the season 3 games in. Just fantastic. Our insights are going to be so spot on. It's great.
What it is we wait to preview because if we actually previewed the season, we wouldn't know anything. We wouldn't know that Mark Few was playing 10 guys 20 minutes a game, that kind of stuff. So, here's a little Coyote Picnic for those of you that are not on YouTube, but for those of you on YouTube, we'll stay right here and keep talking. Okay, John Rosenberger. I'm going to call you Rosenberger and you Carey. Give me just kind of the breakdown. You're our resident expert, but I want your kind of 10,000-foot breakdown of this Gonzaga team from kind of just like how did this team come together? Like what happened? Give me that discussion.
Yeah, so this team is a lot of new faces. The big off-season kind of announcement somewhat was that Graham Ike and Braden Huff were staying, which I was worried about, and John Kerry was not worried about. So we return our 2 front court stars, and then basically everybody else is either new to the team or playing a much bigger role. The only other that I can think of, the only other player who was playing last year, who's still playing, is Emmanuel Innocenti, who has the Italian shooting guard, who has stepped into a starting role. And then there are some new faces that have been around a little bit longer. Steele Venters, finally, after two season-ending injuries.
Was it 2
before the season
ACLs
started.
or was it an ACL?
And Achilles.
Jesus.
I think on different legs.
Yeah,
So-
on either leg. I think the injuries happened within like 2.5 weeks of each other, 1 year apart. So
Yeah.
just unbelievable.
Yeah, just crap
Terrible
luck.
So the former Big Sky Player of the Year from Eastern Washington is in. We've also got the former Patriot League Player of the Year, Braden Smith, Seattle Prep legend and Colgate transfer. He was sitting on the bench last year. He agreed to a redshirt year to take the keys after Nemhard left. And then Jalen Worley transferred from Florida State, and then he briefly went to Virginia before their coach left, and now he spent the whole last year on our bench as well. So those guys have been in the system. And then otherwise, rounding out kind of our main players, I guess, that have been playing a lot are Tyon Grant Foster, who's been a journeyman, who's like 25 years old. He had to fight for his eligibility. He's playing now. He kind of just got to campus, weeks ago, actually. Mario Saint Superi, the little prince, the Spanish phenom, is the backup point guard at the moment. And Adam Miller, another kind of older journeyman coming most recently from Arizona State, has been starting at the 2 for us. So, this team is like, we return our front court scoring, which Mark Few is obviously crazy about, and then really just surrounded by a lot of older players, a lot of height, a lot of more wing depth than I've ever seen from Gonzaga, as well as 2 very capable point guards. So it's an exciting team, and a lot of new names and faces to learn, but definitely a different complexion to our games.
I think the question that comes with all those new names and faces is like, how is and this can be kind of for both of you, but how does the distribution kind of work that you guys see moving forward? Graham Mike is obviously going to be your 15 to 20 points a game scorer. Braden Huff's going to be that kind of secondary piece. And I think they're expecting Grant Foster, from my understanding, to be kind of that third scoring piece. But the last couple of years have been a Nemhard plus EK. There's usually, there was a Drew Timme era. There's been all these different eras of like the big man and big man plus. How does the big man or big man plus fit into this system with whatever Mark Few's got going on this season that you guys can tell so far?
Yeah, well, I think that's the big question about this year. But it's kind of I'm glad you asked that, because it's a great kind of example of why this team is different from some teams in the past. Is when you think about Gonzaga and Gonzaga basketball, the first thing you think of is, what's this offense going to look like? How is this offense going to be one of the best in the country? How is that going to work? And, I'm excited to find that out. I think 3 games in, there have been some positive things and some not so positive things, but that's not really, so far anyway, that's not what this team is. This team is a dog defensive team with great size and great pressure on the wings. And I really don't know what our offensive identity is going to look like, but our defensive identity is pretty clear out of the gates. And that's, a ton of pressure on the perimeter, try to funnel guys in. We don't have great rim protection necessarily, but Ike and Huff have both been very good at just making the proper rotations at the low post to, kind of dissuade drivers. And it is causing just headaches for other teams. So, I think the stat that is most, endemic of this season in terms of the results so far is we're averaging 20 assists a game. That's coming from a variety of sources. It's Braden Smith feeding it into the low post, stepping into that Nemhard role. That is happening. But it's, also Saint Supere, who's been awesome out of the gate, drive and kick stuff. Say again.
Jalen Worley, too?
Yeah, Worley's been awesome. Assists per game. What's Worley at? 3 assists?
Yeah.
That's second on the team or third on the team. It's Smith and Supere are both at 4, and then Worley's sitting at 3. Ike's at 2.7 in terms of assists, so they're moving the ball well. But while they're averaging 20 assists a game, they're holding their opponents to 7.5 assists per game. So they are just forcing one-on-one baskets to be scored, and it's been really effective.
Yeah, totally. I mean, your question, Tyler, of how are the bigs going to fit into the system, I think ultimately the system is going to remain. Like, Mark Fuse is going to figure out how to fit the system to these bigs to a certain degree. And that's just been his calling card for years and years, is like they're the first possession of the game, every game for the last century, it feels like, has just been like dumping the ball down low. And if it works, do that till it stops working, basically. And if it doesn't work, then we'll figure it out. But, I mean, I think that's going to obviously be a big part of our offense. I think the thing about this team that's going to make it exciting to watch and refreshing from last year is just like this time last year, we were talking about the same thing. And it's like, okay, Ryan Nemhard is going to run a pick and roll with Graham Ike or Braden Huff 99% of the time, it feels like. And the hope last year was, okay, well, Caleb Battle, Michael Ajayi are like more of initiators that can maybe also do something else. It didn't really totally pan out that way. I think the nice thing about this team is Braden Smith and Mario Saint Superi are both very capable point guards, and they're going to be able to run that pick and roll. But I think there's going to be a lot more variety in like initiation, and because I mean we saw it the last 2 years with Nemhard, who is excellent and led the country in assists. But it's just like we're just going to do pick and roll until it breaks the other team's back, and if they can't figure it out, we're going to win by a million. But if they do figure it out, then our offense kind of stalled. And my hope this year is that with the stifling defense forcing turnovers, with more rebounders and more ball handlers on the wing, there'll be more variety in where baskets can come from when someone's having an off night, or the ball gets sticky, or it gets to be a play gets blown up or what have you. So that's sort of my take on it at the moment.
Yeah.
And to that point, we're getting 30 points a game from the bigs, from Ike and Huff. We're getting 40 from our, kind of non-point guard, guard slash wings with Foster, Miller, Worley, and Saint Supere. Those guys are averaging a combined 40 per game. So that's really, really good production out of kind of the larger guard slash wing spot on this team. And it's been, and to that point and to the how is this going to grow over the course of the season, if you were to ask us before the year started, we would have said Steele Venters and Braden Smith are both going to be really big parts of this offense. Both of them are averaging under 5 points a game so far this season. And, Smith's more of a distributor, but particularly with Steele, he's not shooting it super efficiently so far on the year. That guy's got a ton of room to grow. So, defensively, I hope we can improve, but I would love if we just got what we've gotten for the rest of the year. Offensively, I think there's a lot of room for this team to play better.
I would agree. I mean, you just look at the numbers, right? They're shooting from the three-point line. It's like 31% on the season, just over 50% from the field, which are kind of middling numbers. And what you were saying, Carrie, about just the defense kind of upping the intensity than what we've seen from Gonzaga in the past, I think is pretty indicative of what you would hope to see from a team that is, Graham Ike and Braden Huff, who historically were not necessarily our favorite guys when it came to the defensive side of the ball. Huff's been, he was younger the last couple of years and he'll step it up, but Graham Ike was not our favorite in terms of foul trouble. I think my next question is about kind of the distribution of time, because you've got, what is that? 9 guys averaging at least 14 minutes a game, and then you've got a few guys spattered in there that are gonna get less time as the season comes along. But it's like, do you expect Graham Ike to only play 25, 26 minutes a game? Do you expect Braden Huff to play 22 minutes a game? Like, are these numbers what we would expect? Because the efficiency with that time from Graham Ike is really nice. The efficiency from Huff is pretty good. My question is, are they going to stay on the court more, or are they going to be on the court at about the same rate? And how are the guards kind of factoring in there? Because that feels like where the scoring is coming from. It's when Ike and Huff are off the court. You guys have to go to the guards, up the tempo, or up the defensive intensity so you can create fast break transition points, things like that. So that's what I'm seeing. Is that what you guys would expect long term as well?
I would say yes. I like the balance this team has struck. I think, the idea of playing Ike and Huff together, I think it works, particularly offensively. A lot of Ike's assists come on, low post dump offs to the other side to Huff. They work really well together. But the fact of the matter is, you can run that low pick and roll with either one of them. So having one on the court and then being able to get more of these defensive bodies, some of these fast bodies that like to get out in transition, hypothetically maybe a little bit more shooting out there as well. Yes, the idea of them overlapping for maybe 6 minutes a game and the rest of their time be separate so that there's almost always one on the court, I think that's very sustainable.
Yeah, I agree. I think that it's been interesting. The Ike Huff lineup has been kind of hot and cold. I think it does. It does have some challenges like any sort of Twin Towers lineup would. And honestly, coming into the season, I was a little worried about our depth at the front line because those two guys get in a lot of foul trouble.
Yep.
I guess before I say all this, I'll answer your question of just saying I do think this kind of distribution is probably what we'll look at as far as averages. But going into the season, both those guys are foul prone, and they still are. And I was kind of like, oh man, if that's our 4 and 5, who's the backup even? And Jalen Worley has been excellent as a backup 4. If we'd done this pod before the season started, I would have told you that Jalen Worley was at risk of getting squeezed out of the lineup, and he's been just like absolutely demanding minutes with his play, in my opinion. So he's been really solid. But I agree. I think that this minute distribution can work. I think Ismaila Diani, like a true 7-footer as your kind of like emergency ripcord center, is like a pretty solid problem to have. I mean, it's not a problem to have at all. It's a luxury. And yeah, I mean, I just think if it works this way, I think it's been working. Yeah.
I think the way more interesting conversation to have, because I do think, our front court, the answers to the questions have been pretty apparent, at least so far. I think the point guard question is way more interesting. And we've talked a lot about this, that let's just say thank God for Saint Supere, because we were not sure how ready he would be as a freshman coming over from Spain. How ready is he going to be to play? He has looked amazing. He's looked like our second or third best player, and maybe fourth best player. We got a great team, but the one thing that's very true is he has looked way better and way more in control than Braden Smith has. The only thing Braden's really done at a high level in these first 3 games is run the pick and roll to feed EK, and Huff in the low post, which is important. But what Saint Super A has been able to do on defense, his shooting, his ability to attack the basket and actually generate points for himself doing so has been a revelation. And yeah, with Braden struggling as it is, now the question is Braden going to hold on to that starting job, or is the freshman going to come and take it from him?
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at the stats. You've got Saint-Esprit. He's got 12 assists. He does have 5 turnovers compared to Smith's 12 assists to 2 turnovers. But at the same time, that's age coming, and guy playing NCAA basketball.
And he plays. You can tell that just watching him play. He plays with a lot of energy, and he really attacks the basket, and that's going to come with turnovers.
Yeah.
There have been some silly mistakes, but when I watch him play, man, I've been blown away by Mario.
Yeah, I knew this was coming. I knew this is what you were going to say, Carrie, and I mostly agree with you. No, I mean, Mario is the top NBA prospect on this roster, and he does look incredible on the court at times. I think that, but I'm not selling my Braden Smith stock. I will say I think he's been solid. I mean, he's been asked to kind of do something different than Mario, where he's been working with that 2 big lineup in the starting lineup, and he's been asked to do that to facilitate the offense. And I think he's been really steady. I think his lack of turnovers is good, and I know, from all accounts, he's a leader kind of in the locker room, which I think is going to continue to, I think he'll stay as a starter for a while is kind of my bottom line here. But I think the minute split where they're basically playing even minutes is, I'm totally happy with that. Mario's been kind of coming in once the game's somewhat in hand at times, and just kind of crushing the souls of these poor teams that are already down 20. No, I mean, I'm a Braden Smith believer. I think he's a pretty good defender. And I mean, he's really fast. I don't know if you saw that one play in the Creighton game where he just went coast to coast and finished. That was nice. I mean, he's got some really good skills, and I think that as impressive and flashy as Mario has been, I am expecting some freshman moments. And I think at those times it's going to be really nice to have Braden Smith as like a steady hand, even if he's not super flashy. I think he's just going to be able to kind of do what needs to be done.
I think there's also tons of positive regression for Braden Smith. I mean, he's coming off 2 years. His 2 years in the Patriot League at Colgate, he shot 36% and 31% from 3, which is not, record-breaking, but it's very solid. This year, on almost 3 attempts per game, he's shooting 12% from 3. So
that's like 10 shots. It's like...
Correct. Incredibly. We're talking about 3 games here,
yeah.
But it's what we've seen in 3 games. So
yeah,
there's lots of room for positive regression with his shooting to look a lot better than it has. And I think the other biggest part of this too is we've watched a lot of years of Mark Few basketball, and sometimes it can be infuriating, his commitment to seniors over talented young players. And obviously, Saint Superi is a big part of this lineup. He's playing big minutes and big spots, like Few believes in him. But the fact that Braden is a transfer guy who came and sat a year to be a senior here, it would probably take quite a bit for Few to pull the trigger and actually move him to the bench. You know what honestly wouldn't shock me is if there was a time near the end of the season where Superi is averaging more minutes per game than Braden Smith, but Braden is still starting games, because that's Few.
I think that's what's happening now. I'm also curious to see whether we're going to get to... Because our starting lineup right now is Braden Smith, Emmanuel Innocenti. Well, Braden Smith, Miller at the 2, Emmanuel Innocenti at the 3, Huff, Ike. And that's just like no one thinks that's our best 5 players, I don't think. So I expect it to change a lot, and I mean, Few is in love with the two point guard lineup, and so like I'm curious. We haven't hardly seen that at all, where they're on the floor together, and I'm curious, like, is Few trying to give Mario these minutes with the ball in his hand? But he played off ball in the Spanish league. Um, I believe all the time, and he's the backup point guard for Eurobasket for the Spanish national team. So I'm curious how it's all going to shake out. But no, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if he had more minutes. I think there is. I bristle at the thought of a conference player of the year coming to Gonzaga, agreeing to redshirt, sitting out a whole year, and then getting like immediately recruited over and losing his minutes. I don't love the idea of that for the locker room and for like, obviously the crystal ball of all the rest of the world going on. But I guess like I just think if Mario is just playing so well that you can't keep him off the floor, I'll accept that deal. Like, totally.
And I think there's a lot of room there, for your point, for him to slide into the 2 and maybe push Innocenti out of the starting lineup. Just push Miller to the 3. Yeah, I think that makes more sense. Because, remind me, Emmanuel, he's a true sophomore, is he? Or a true junior?
He's a true junior.
True junior, okay. So
Few loves him, and so do I.
Yeah, Innocenti is awesome honestly, the biggest loser maybe so far this season is Innocenti, just because he was the great defensive player on a pretty middling defensive team last year.
Yep.
We were always watching him do these things on the perimeter and being like, oh my god, Innocenti is so good at defense. And now this year, he's just one of like 4 guys doing that on the perimeter. It's our poor guy. He's now surrounded by great defenders.
But he's also starting and playing as many minutes as everybody other than Huff and Ike. So it's not like I wouldn't call him a loser at this moment at all. He's
a big part of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, Mike, I'm trying to figure out because Rosenberger, you were talking about how Grant Foster is kind of the big acquisition of this offseason, and I think he's kind of the exact same guy as Caleb Battle from last year. The more I look at his kind of profile, 2 years at GCU, 20.1 points a game, and then last year was 14.8. So a little bit of a regression, but that's nothing to be upset about. And then this year he's played in 3 games, obviously, and he's got 11.3 points per game. And I'm looking at Caleb Battle from last year, and he comes in and he was, a 20 point per game, 16 point per game, somewhere in that range scorer at Arkansas, and he averaged 13.6 points per game last year. Is that kind of exactly where you see Grant Foster? Because my thing with guys of that caliber is like, are they coming to win or are they coming to make the NBA? Because there's a regression in his stats that comes with coming to Gonzaga, and I don't know what he's expecting from that. And I think we may have seen a little bit of that from Caleb Battle last year of the, kind of he wanted the ball more. And there were games where he would drop, 20, 22 points, and he looked really good. But I guess, what are we expecting from Grant Foster this season? Because he's obviously not starting. You guys haven't mentioned his name really once in terms of what he's done. He's turning the ball over 2 times a game. Like, he's not doing anything great, but he's going to be the guy who we expect to be able to score the ball late in the game, right?
Is he not starting?
He's not starting. No, I mean, so for those who might not know, Tyon Grant Foster has been in college for 20 years and had to lobby. He had a heart issue, had to sit out 2 years after collapsing at halftime. But then he played JUCO for 2 years before this, and so he started college in 2018.
This is his 8th year involved in college basketball. He did 2 years at JUCO, a year at Kansas, a year at DePaul.
Where he was at DePaul, first game, halftime, he collapsed. Spent 2 years there.
Yeah, a year did not play at DePaul. Another 2 years at Grand Canyon, and now he's at Gonzaga.
So
this guy's older than some uncles now.
Yeah. So anyway, with Tyon Grant Foster, he had to. He sued the NCAA for not granting him a waiver. An injunction was granted like 2 weeks ago. He had like a week of practice, and he had a practice waiver, and then they took that away, said you're not eligible. They sued the NCAA, and like an hour before our second exhibition game, he was cleared, or he won. He got this injunction so he could play. So he's been on for like a month. He's been playing with the team for like 2 weeks. So I mean, he was bad in the Creighton game. He didn't make a shot until like garbage time when Few left him in, just to like, I think like try to get hot or something. But he played good defense. But I think the Caliph Battle comp is exactly the game plan. I think it's like, here's a guy who we want to come in and be able to get his own bucket when it's allowed, or when the opportunity calls for it, I guess. Because he's just a scorer, he's a dog. The thing I love about him is he's an absolute beast on the rebounds, which I was wanting to talk about this team on the boards, but I think that's the vision for him, is to be able to get a bucket when all else fails and you just need one, kind of as your ripcord. Is that my second time saying ripcord on this pod?
Yeah, it's a new phrase for the pod.
I know. And as far as your question of why do guys come to Gonzaga? Do they want to win? Do they want to make the NBA? I think the answer to both of those questions is yes. I think that a guy like Caliph Battle, a guy like Ty and Grant Foster, they've been around for long enough. And we've had it even before this, of some grad transfers in the past, where it's these are guys who've been around long enough, and they've maybe been on losing teams or teams that didn't really have the legs to make it really far. Grand Canyon's been a solid team, but I think that these older guys, they want to come in and show the world that yes, I can be the guy at a small school or on a bad team, but trying to make their case to the scouts of the world, whether it's the NBA or other professional leagues, to say I can play within a system on a good team and contribute to winning. And I think that it's going to be a huge uphill battle for Grant Foster to make an NBA roster at this point. He's old, and he's not that good of a shooter, and he has he's fucking pacemaker.
He's not going into the NBA.
No.
But he's going to try. But the NBA, actually, he couldn't this year. He wasn't even eligible to declare for the draft because they said, we need this device in your heart to be there for a full year before we would allow it.
That's crazy.
So it's I think that's still his dream. I would guarantee you his dream, like the rest of these guys. But I think that's why he's here, is contributing to winning. And I think that's the thing of you look at, he's 25 years old. Adam Miller's 23, 24. He's pretty old. We've got a pretty old team.
Worley's 24 too. Yeah.
Worley, yeah. He
got it right here.
When did he start school?
Oh, it doesn't have his age here.
Just go down.
Yeah, his first year was 2021.
He started in 2021. He sat out last year, so he's a fifth-year senior. But we got a very old team, and I think that these guys, EK, Huff are both upperclassmen, and I think that these guys are all seemingly bought in on we just want to win basketball games, and the chips will kind of fall where they might professionally after the fact.
I think an underrated aspect of that too is you look at a lot of our guys, we got a Patriot League Player of the Year, we got a Big Sky Player of the Year. A lot of these guys that have really dominated at lower leagues, and the dream might be NBA, and that's great. But there is also a caliber of player that's good enough to think about pro ball, but not necessarily be thinking about the NBA. And I think John said it great of Tyon, good for you for dreaming about the league. You're not playing in the NBA. You're just not. Drew Timme needs to learn that no matter how many years the Brooklyn Nets let him score 50 on their D League team, he's never actually going to play in a game for them. But there are awesome opportunities to go play in Greece and in Spain and across Europe. And Gonzaga, great international connections. I think that's an underrated part of that. Not only do we recruit a ton internationally, we have sent many a player to professional leagues overseas. So, it's not, I think Tyon, Braden Smith, these are the types of guys that they're thinking about pro ball, just not necessarily in the United States.
That's actually something that I was looking at your team, and I was like, a lot of these guys are, at least the guys that are getting good minutes, a lot of these guys are guys that are transfers and or have been, or are from the U.S. I think the pipeline of actual players coming from outside of the U.S. to Gonzaga has shrunk a little bit. And even then, those players, you think about June last year and just guys like that who are coming from all over the world, it feels like Gonzaga is actually a little bit more of a pipeline to become a transfer. It's we got recruited to go play at Gonzaga. We're going to go test our luck, but it's not actually likely that these guys stay here. And it could lead a little bit more into a discussion on just generally basketball and college basketball and how it is right now with NIL and the opportunity to make money. Because I was looking at Washington State's roster, and literally like three-quarters of them are like, well, they were all picked clean, and then three-quarters of them are all from like Finland or somewhere in Europe or like Russia. And it's like, I think there's a lot of opportunities for people to come from all over the world for money in college basketball right now. And Gonzaga has kind of hopped more into the transfer portal side of things. Would you guys kind of agree with that?
I think that, honestly, going back to like when we were in school, Gonzaga always made pretty good, like judicious use of like the grad transfer, like Byron Wesley when we were there, Jonathan Williams.
Williams was like the
Jordan Matthews,
OG, yeah. And then Brandon Clark, obviously.
Brandon Clark. There's lots of examples, and I think that, I certainly think that this staff is changing with the times as necessary, and you look at the roster, and very few of these guys started at Gonzaga, but we return Ike, we return Huff. Like, those are our two kind of big fish that could have gone
elsewhere.
We kept Timmy. That was obviously a couple years ago now, but like the fact that he could have bag chased and gone to Kentucky or something. So I think they're doing a pretty good job of keeping guys around, but at the same time, like they're certainly, they want their transfers that are going to be impact players.
When I think even more than, because obviously transfer and NIL, it's the way of the world now, but we're not going and getting the third guy off of Kansas to come and start for us. That's not really how this roster is constructed. What Gonzaga's always had an amazing talent for is looking in, lower conferences and spotting real high-end talent. When you think about, Brandon Clark is the quintessential San Jose State guy that we went and got, and he played for us, was amazing for us, and went on to the NBA. That was not his trajectory until we kind of went and got him and brought him up. And, even in today's, NIL sweepstakes, the ability to kind of look down, find talent, and bring that talent up is still incredibly valuable, and I think we still have that. Ike is another great example. Like, he was a Wyoming guy, and now he's leading, I think this team's going to be a top 10 team in the country, and he's going to lead a top 10 team in the country in scoring. And that's because of our ability to kind of scout out those guys and bring them up. So, we've got guys, I think, was it Worley played for Florida State, or was it Adam?
Worley played for Florida State.
Yeah, and then last year getting Battle from Arkansas. We can go steal some players from big programs.
Yeah, but... I would say we do both. Realistically, if you think of the impact transfers, like those guys I mentioned, Jordan Matthews was at Cal's whatever. Byron Wesley was at USC, but then Andrew Nemhard was at Florida. Kyle Wilcher was at Kentucky, but he's from Portland, so we recruited him. And so it's like they'll go get guys. Going the clock way back, we got Dan Dickow, All-American from UW. A little local connection.
We got another guy from UW. What was his name?
Williams Goss.
Oh yeah,
he was okay at basketball. We like that guy.
So I think that I think this staff's always been good at getting transfers, and like the new landscape is challenging everybody, and there's so few teams that have real great continuity. But even looking at this team, it is interesting if you look at Ike, Huff, Worley, Innocenti, Steele Venters, Braden Smith, and Ishmael Adiani. Those are 7 players in the top 11
that were all on the team.
That were all on the team last year, even if they weren't playing. We're playing big minutes, but it's very interesting. I'm hopeful that the new conference and revenue sharing, I think that could theoretically be very friendly to Gonzaga, not having to support a football team. But
and the last thing I'll say on that is you're talking about the European pipeline kind of shrinking, and I think that's probably fair. There was a minute there where it felt like we were bringing over the best Europeans in college basketball to play for us, or at least that's what it felt like.
Feels like it right now with Mario.
That's what I'm saying, man. But I think there was a worry that Tommy Lloyd kind of took that with him to Arizona, because he was such a big part of that aspect of our recruiting. But yeah, I really think even there have been some failures the last couple of years. Like I'm sure, June's representatives, Krajnovic is a name I haven't said in a year and a half.
It's a name you've never said right.
Yeah, well, I never had to learn it because he never played. So those are two guys, big international guys we thought were going to be a big part of this team and just weren't. But Saint Super has a real opportunity to be the best international guy playing for Gonzaga since probably Killian Tilly, which is a big deal for the program.
Nemhard's Canadian, but
we are not counting Canadians. And yeah, I really do think that's a big deal to go maybe kind of reopen some of those connections and say, hey, guys can succeed in this system from overseas. So multiple reasons why I'm so invested in Saint Super.
I'm gonna use this as kind of a jumping off point for a couple of discussion topics there. The first being, how do you guys feel about the Gonzaga, I guess, underclassmen pipeline of, the last few, I guess not the last few years, but a few years back, you had kind of the Minnesota pipeline of, you had the Jalen Suggs, you had Chet. Where is that right now for Gonzaga? I guess is the first question. We'll just jump into that for now.
Well, I'll let him be really optimistic, but I will say there was an expectation reset. I think we got 2 top 5 in the country recruits in back-to-back years, and there was a moment there where it's like, okay, are we actually going to recruit like Duke? Like, are we actually going to go get top 10 prospects in the United States to play at Gonzaga? It felt like that. That is not the case. That was a blip on the radar. It was a really cool thing that happened in 2 years. We've got some awesome guys coming in, but that has not been, we are not picking from the top of the pile.
Yeah, that's fair. I think, the Suggs thing was odd. We went, Suggs, and then Hunter Salas was the highest rated after Suggs, and then
Don't say that name.
I'll save that take for another time.
NBA player Hunter Salas.
He's going to play in the league, man.
It's crazy.
He's in the league.
Yeah, he got drafted.
But he couldn't handle the system.
Not like Hickman.
He had to go put up empty stats at a Wake Forest team, but I digress. Anyway, we had a hot streak there, and then we kind of kept trying to get those guys. Like Isaiah Harwell was a 5-star point guard, who's a freshman this year, but he's from freaking Pocatello, Idaho, so we were, on him the whole time. Went to Houston, and we missed on some big ones like that, but I think that things have recovered or normalized, whatever you would want to say. Like, we had a couple of very lean years, but if you look at Davis Vogel, he is our 7th leading scorer based on what I'm seeing now, but he's barely been playing. But he's from Anacortes. He ended up playing in Phoenix for his last season of high school, but he was like a top 30 guy. He's the top guy since I think only those 3 guys, Chet, Salas, and Suggs, are above Davis Vogel. He looked good in his exhibition minutes, granted, and he's taking a patient approach this year. And then incoming in October, we signed 3 guys. We signed Jack Kyle. He's a German combo guard he's playing in Berlin, and he committed, but he's kind of doing the thing of he's committed here for next year, but if he gets the NBA call before then, he's going to do that.
Yep.
But hopefully he plays just well enough to not make the NBA and comes to play for us. And then we also got Sam Funches, who's like a 4-star center out of Mississippi. We scooped him up, other than away from Mississippi State and Ole Miss, LSU. And then also next year we have Luca Foster, who's like a 4-star from Pennsylvania. He's like a shooting wing. And then in the next year we got this guy Dooney Johnson. He's like a 4 fringe 5-star combo guard from Milwaukee. So it's been nice to see after some pretty lean years of missing on everyone we went for and having to only get transfers or whatever. Got a lot of young talent theoretically on the way. You never know until they're on campus, I guess. But
yeah.
And I do think that top tier recruits and real 5 stars, top 10 guys, I think that that's still in play as much as it ever has been. Whereas it's gonna take a specific guy, like it took Jalen Suggs, who wants to come play for a few. But
Yeah.
I do think, I mean, with the revenue sharing, Gonzaga is making a lot of revenue, and we're getting a full share in the new Pac-12.
We're getting football
We're
money
getting
for not
That's-
playing
We're
football.
getting football. money.
That's
We
kind of
don't
my
just-
next question that I'm ready to when you guys are good on the underclassmen.
Yeah.
I want to talk about the NIL stuff.
Yeah, just real quick before we go into that, because this is why we bring John on. He's the one that sends me the information when we're securing new recruits, and I could not have pulled most of those names off my head. But what I really think it comes down to is, after those years where we were getting these top 5 guys, I think we were just kind of overshooting trying to get some of the top guys, and it really bit us. I think there's been a program kind of reset of like, okay, we're gonna, instead of failing to get top 5 guys in the country, let's consistently succeed at getting top 40 guys in the country. And that has worked a lot better. And we haven't even reaped the rewards of that mind shift change yet. That's going to be coming in the next couple of years. We'll see what Fogel does this year. He seems like he's just going to get minutes to grow as we blow out teams. But so
And then you get,
yeah.
and then we get, and then it comes to the transfers of like, okay, we're not going to get him out of high school, but Jalen Worley, 6'7" Jalen Worley was a 5-star guard when he.
Yeah,
when
he's
he
here now.
committed. I mean, he's here now,
Yeah.
and I think that's the thing that I think is
Yeah. I also think
playing that game.
there's underrated value in like top 40 guys that could still very much end up in the NBA of just like, you know, these one and done guys are awesome, but I will tell you, man, like Chet Holmgren, so much fun to watch at Gonzaga, such like a treat and such a great player. So much of watching him was like, man, he'd be really good in a year, you know, because these 17, 18-year-old kids that are destined for the NBA, they've got a lot of stuff to figure out. And they, believe it or not, they don't figure it all out their first year of college. And I do think there's something to be said about getting some of these, you know, top 40 sophomores, maybe even juniors that are actually being able to grow and develop into great college players.
Great enough.
Like Braden Huff. Braden Huff's a great example. But even Jalen Suggs during that magical, awesome season, you know, leading us to the Final Four and to the national championship, you know, there were games and there were decisions that were just, you know, bad decisions because he was a freshman. So,
He's flawless. He's not a perfect boy.
but anyway, that's all I want to say. I think it was a program shift in mindset, and I think it's going to pay dividends.
Okay, so this is going to be a little bit more of a spiel, but I think the Jalen Suggs and Chet Holmgren I guess we can call them acquisitions, whatever you want to call them. The recruitment of them was actually very, very important for Gonzaga, I think, at that time, because that was the time period when you saw Gonzaga as a name probably shift the most. Over the last 2 decades, I feel like that was when Gonzaga was at its peak in terms of nationwide recognition, because you guys had Chet or like Jalen Suggs as, you know, top recruits, these guys that are similar to the like Cooper Flag thing, but it's like Duke is in the conversation every year because they are able to recruit top recruits that are going to go to the NBA. And the point of sometimes college basketball is to watch these guys that you're going to eventually watch in the NBA. And I think that what Gonzaga has done over the last couple of years after that is, first of all, indicative of the NIL shift of like, okay, we do have to shift away from that, primarily in my mind because they didn't have as much funds to give to these players as other schools that are in the SEC, the Big Ten. And so they kind of had to shift away from getting those top recruits. And it probably wasn't even like a program-wide decision. It was probably like hey, we're not able to compete with these guys right now. And Gonzaga does get a lot of money from the donations and stuff like that. But I do think it was probably like of necessity and not of desire that like that's how things worked out.
We do not get Duke money, with a full football share. We do not get Duke money.
So what I will say with that is, with NIL coming into play even more as things progress, as well as the addition of Gonzaga to the Pac-12 and this money that you guys are talking about, do you guys see them shifting back and going more for these top recruits as they get this money that they would, you know, most schools would allocate to football? They can allocate that money to basketball. Do you guys see them doing kind of more of what they did with the bigger recruits, or would you guys prefer what they're doing right now? Because as great as it is, the longer you can, if you're Duke, right? The reason that Duke is so popular for all these recruits is because they've been doing it for years. The more that you do it, the longer you do it, the longer you get these one and dones, but still send them to the NBA and have successful seasons. Like LSU did it once with Ben Simmons, and now that nobody on their team gets talked about because they were unsuccessful. But if you can succeed for long periods of time while getting top recruits, and also have guys in the background that you're talking about, these transfers that are 4 or 5 star recruits, stick around with the team, I think that's how you build a really, really successful. And Gonzaga is a very successful program. They've been successful for the last 20 years. They make the tournament every year. But the top tier, the blue bloods, if you want to call them that, they are able to do both things. Do you see Gonzaga being able to do that as they get this NIL money? Is that something that you guys are like looking for?
Yeah, I mean, I think Gonzaga with this money should have they are gonna have the funds to compete with anybody if they really want to. I think that ultimately there is still, I mean, every program in college of every sport says this, of like, we want to get our guys. And I think that's true for Gonzaga to a degree. I mean, I think it's actually very true for Gonzaga.
Particularly true with a coach like Mark Few.
Yeah, it's like they want to get their guys, and it's like even this cycle, like, you know, they've signed these other guys who are like 4 stars, and they were going after. They had their hat in the ring with some of the real top tier guys. I think they're being a little bit smarter of like feeling it out and being like, you know, we might follow a guy from junior year, we're going to offer him if he's a top 10 guy. And then if senior year rolls around and they're just not getting the sense that it's a realistic possibility, I think they're going to pull back. I think that's kind of what I've seen from as far as I've been following Gonzaga recruiting. But I think that, I think financially they're going to be in the position to get guys they really want. I think they are going to still be selective and try to be, even with a lot of money. It's not like, you know, we're not going to beat UNC in a bidding war. Like, we are still, it's not like we're just like suddenly the Goliath in the room or anything like that. But I think that they're kind of going for their guys that want to buy into the system, because also it's just like Mark Few, unless you are just undeniably good like Chet Holmgren or Jalen Suggs, he's not going to like guarantee you tons of minutes your freshman year. And like,
he might guarantee you none.
But even look at Julian Strother. Julian Strother is a very good player. He is, you know, contributing in the NBA right now as a backup. But like, he came in as a 4-star, you know, top 50 guy, and he barely played as a freshman. That he was on the Jalen Suggs team. He barely played on that team at all. And then he played a little bit more his sophomore year than he played a lot his junior year into the league. And like, I think that's the message that seemingly is being sold to these guys. And I think a lot too of the NIL funds, as I think is going to happen everywhere, is going to be sort of allocated for known commodities in the transfer portal. Yeah. I mean, it's like you look at Andrew Nemhard, you look at Ryan Nemhard, you look at Graham Ike was very, very coveted as a transfer.
Established. You know what you're getting. He's played against college guys.
It's like the Pitino thing. Rick Pitino said that. He's just like, I'm not even recruiting high schoolers, because why would I bother recruiting an 18-year-old when I can get a 22-year-old who's been playing in the NCAA for 3 years?
Yeah. The fact that, as weird as it is to say, because again, this isn't the NBA, you're not drafting somebody to have him for 10 years. In this season that's about to happen, Graham Ike is probably a more valuable player than most of the top 5 recruits in the country. Like, he probably is. He probably contributes more to trying to win a national championship than a lot of those guys. Maybe not every single one, but I think...
No, yeah, totally. I mean, I just think... And then I think there's also just the thing of, like, you do have to be smart about what freshman you go for, because there are guys, and I think this is the point of saying, like, we got to go for our guys, because there are top 10 5-star freshmen who aren't going to have an amazing season, and maybe they won't. Not every single one of them is going to the NBA this year. I don't think that's a crazy thing to say. I don't think that ever happens where every single top 10 high schooler goes to the NBA. And so, like, I think And I bet you a bunch of these guys are going to transfer. The ones that don't make it to the NBA. Look at like Boogie Flynn. That's a perfect example. He was on Arkansas last year, 5-star, super highly recruited. Calipari's back, and he had a kind of a middling season, even though he played a ton at Arkansas, and he transferred to Florida. And so it's like,
what did Arkansas get
it's like,
out of
yeah,
that?
it's like, what's the point of recruiting guys if you don't think that they're going to buy in and they're going to stay?
Yeah.
Unless they're just undeniably, unless they're just a Jalen Suggs, unless they're just a Chet Holmgren, unless they're like, an AJ DeBonsa, where it's just like, yeah, we got him, like, please,
Cooper Flag,
yeah,
yeah.
Cooper Flag, please, yeah, please come to my team, sure, but like,
And I think part of that
restful.
is, yeah, I think that's 100% right. I do think Few is bordering on crotchety old man at this point. He's done it all.
I was thinking
Obviously,
about
doesn't have a national championship yet, but he's been to 2 national championships. He built this program, coming out of the 90s. Like, what he's turned this program into, he's not going to kowtow to any 18-year-old kid, no matter how talented they are. You look at the history of freshmen contributing in a major way at Gonzaga. Again, it's another reason I'm so excited about Mario is it doesn't really happen that often. Both Chet and Jalen, while both being generational talents, are also 2 of the most unselfish, like, top 5 recruits in the last forever. They came in so ready to play their role on a team that had high aspirations.
totally.
And you don't see that all the time. And that's, I'm not really sure, think about Kentucky. The last time Kentucky won a national championship is the year that they had so many NBA guys on their roster that Devin Booker didn't start.
They didn't even win that year.
Did they not win that year?
They lost to Wisconsin, right? They were undefeated until they lost to Wisconsin.
Oh my
I think that was the
gosh.
same
This is what I'm.
thing. Anthony Davis.
Oh my god. So even further back. So I don't want to be at Kentucky. Like, there are a lot. I think about that even with Duke. Like, obviously Duke has had more success recently, but it's like the Cooper Flag year last year. They put together an amazing team. Top 4 players on that team are gone. And they look like they're going to be very good again this year because they just go buy a lot of the best recruits. But that team's going to be gone next year too. We've been watching Graham Ike for 3 years now. We've been watching Braden Huff for 2. Like, this idea of building a team where, pieces come in and out, but you also know what parts of it are going to be. That's not really something you see at, Kentucky as it was or Duke as it is now. And yeah, I honestly think, we have as good, if not a better chance of winning a title. I think about all the hype Duke got that year. They had Cam Reddish and Zion and who was the other guy? Anyway.
RJ Barrett.
Thank you, RJ Barrett.
Lost to Gonzaga. Remember that?
Yeah, we beat them, and then we got further in the tournament than they did because for all the freshman talent, they weren't actually built to compete for a NCAA championship. They're just too young and too inexperienced.
It's just we're not Duke. We're not gonna be Duke. So let's not try to be Duke. I don't think anyone's trying.
And that's what I think the reset. When I'm talking about the program reset, I think the way we're doing it now is how Few wants to do it, and it's our best chance to actually win this thing. Is don't try to be Duke.
I was going to say, for all the smack talking you guys just gave to Duke and Kentucky, they've actually won a national championship.
Okay, all right, not this year. Not that.
My follow-up question to that is just, and this can maybe close out our Gonzaga discussion because we've already been talking for like 45 minutes, but do you guys actually believe that this team can win a national championship? What's the ceiling for this team right now?
I do. I think part of the reason I believe it is I look at the rest of college basketball and I do not see, because even, again, all shade to Duke, their team last year could have won a national championship, and they had to kind of get historically hosed or, historically step into a banana peel to not arguably win a national championship. But I don't see a team like that this year, at least not so far. I don't see any team, or like UConn the couple years before where they just looked so dominant. We look at the top 25, we're currently ranked 19. I think especially after the Creighton beatdown, we'll be closer to 10. I wouldn't be surprised if we end the season top 7. And I don't see anybody in the top 7 that I'm like, there's no way we could beat them. I think this is the best defensive team I believe I've watched as a Gonzaga Bulldog fan. If our offense can be good enough, I see no reason we can't win.
Yeah. Let me just respond to this with what a luxury that Gonzaga has held to such a high standard that 3 games in, we're saying,
National championship or bust.
Are we going to win the national championship or not?
Well, see, that's
So,
the thing.
you know,
You guys are talking about that with the recruiting process. It's like you guys don't want to recruit young guys because they don't give you the best chance to win a national championship. You guys are kind of buying into the parity discussion.
No, you're right. I mean,
Mark Few's going to retire if he's no longer competing primarily to win a national championship.
yeah, I mean, that's obviously, you know, they're trying to get to the Final Four. They're trying to win the national championship. I think that this team, I think it's still very early in the season. We play Arizona State in Tempe tomorrow. I think that'll be an illuminating game. We're not like the feast week. We play Alabama, who might have just won or lost.
I didn't
to
actually
Purdue.
see the end of that game. I saw they were playing Purdue. I can check.
I'm curious now. But we play them. They're a top 10 team. No,
I got it here. Purdue pulled it out, 87-80.
Wow, nice.
But they'll stay a top 10 team. So it's going to be, we're going to learn a lot in the coming games. And like last year, I was very high on the team, and then we looked really questionable. I think right now, AP poll is what it is. In Ken Palm, we are the second team in Ken Palm, and Ken Palm is after we jumped up from like 10 to 2 after the Creighton win, and you know Ken Palm isn't an oracle, but he's pretty good. I think that this team is good enough to string together wins in March. I think that in March Madness, like it is madness, and like the best team doesn't always win. So if the question is Team A or the field, you should always take the field no matter who Team A is. But I think they're good enough to make a Final Four, and if they're in the Final Four, there's no reason they're not good enough to win a national championship. I think the reason for that, at least at this juncture, is Ken Palm has us, last I checked, at the number 5 defense, and like defense wins championships, obviously, is the adage. And I think really just the fact that in the past few years, even with our good teams, it's like our offense is so undeniably good, and the defense is also solid. In the Jalen Suggs team, it's like our defense was like top 20, I want to say, but we weren't like amazing. I think the thing that gives me hope, certainly compared to the past few years, is that like I think our offense is probably going to get clunky at times, but I just think like the defense just travels theoretically, or it's more immune to a bad night. Like you can't, if you have a shitty shooting night, you're in tough waters. But if you're just a dog defensively every night, like you're gonna stay in games theoretically. And so I think that's going to be our strength this year, and I think that's going to set us up for a deep run in March.
Yeah. The last thing I'll say on that too is, so far at least our strength is our defense. Offense looks okay. The shooting does not look very good, but we kind of knew that. We got a lot of guys on this team that aren't great three-point shooters. The one thing, and people are going to laugh because this is just kind of so obvious, but Gonzaga basketball teams have not historically been very good at getting to the free throw line. And that's one thing Caleb Battle brought in last year. He was so good at attacking the basket and actually getting to the free throw line, and it was such a luxury, especially in tight moments, to be able to do that. And again, when we're comparing him and Grant Foster, that might be the most stark comparison. Grant Foster is, I think, top 5 in the country over the last 2 years in free throw attempts. He is so good at getting downhill and attacking the basket. He was our leading scorer against Southern Texas. He was our second leading scorer against Oklahoma. He struggled against Creighton, but he is going to be a huge part of this offense just because when things get tight, we're going to put the ball in his hands and let him attack the basket. So, if you're hitting at the line, it can cover up a lot of three-point shooting issues. And I think that is the hope for this team, is we live in the low post, we hit enough threes, and we get to the free throw line.
Yeah, I think I feel like I've been ESPN pilled to the point where I'm just like, I see all of these teams in the SEC and the Big Ten and college basketball in general that are all kind of built like the way that Gonzaga has been building themselves because of the transfer portal and NIL. They're all doing what Gonzaga has been doing for the last 2 decades, to the point where now that they have all of the money to invest in that, it feels like it's tough for Gonzaga to keep up. And so that's why in my head, their probably ceiling on this season is probably like a Sweet 16 in my opinion. But at the same time, I could see, these guys kind of all taking a step up. It just depends on how everything kind of comes together. And I respect you guys believing that this team can win it all. I think at the end of the day, a lot of the teams that have won it all the last couple of years have been transfer teams and teams that are built like Gonzaga. The problem is everybody's doing that. So it just makes it that much harder to actually predict what's going to happen.
I checked. We're number 3 in KenPom right now. We're saying the ceiling for the 3rd best team in KenPom is a Sweet 16.
I think the problem
for this, Jamie, pull that up.
Flag this. I hear you, man. The one thing I will say is, again, maybe as this season progresses, maybe Duke is really going to take off. I think they haven't played anybody, so we have no idea how good Duke is or isn't. Houston hasn't played anybody. We have no idea if they're actually as good as they appear. If there's another Duke from last year, another Houston from last year, then
Houston and Duke are those teams from this year.
But we haven't seen it. Those guys lost all their best players. They might
it's Purdue, it's Florida, it's those teams as well.
100, but again, most of those guys lost all their best players, so we'll see how good they actually are. If there's another team as dominant as those teams were last year, our chances obviously drop. But the thing is, if we get into the field and everybody's built kind of like us, then our ceiling is the same as everybody else's, which is
March Madness, baby.
Yeah, we're obviously, we're not currently in the Gonzaga era of preseason number 1. That's not where we are right now. But I do think this team is great. I think we're old, which is huge. And I haven't seen anything that makes me terrified of anybody else. That's the main thing. Again, it doesn't matter how good we were if we're running into 2023 UConn, you're just going to lie down and take it at that point. But if a team like that is not around, then I absolutely think we can take it.
Yeah, that's very fair. I will, I was going to say I'll believe it when I see it, but you guys just took down Creighton. So we'll see how this Alabama game goes. We'll see how the season goes. I need to see these other teams as well. I struggle to put them in the top. In my mind, if you say you're going to win the championship, that means you're a top echelon team. And KenPom stats aside, I'm looking at this season and unsure. That's all I wanted to say.
And we'll know. Hey, dude,
I agree. It's too early. Arizona State's going to be revealing when we're on the road.
It's the 13th of November right now.
Yeah.
In exactly 1 month, we'll have played number 8 Alabama, number 9 Kentucky, and number 15 UCLA, all currently ranked above us.
Yep.
Coming out of that, we'll have a much clearer answer for you on what the ceiling for this team is. If my current feelings about the team pan out to be true, then you'll be agreeing with me in a month. If not, I'll be apologizing.
We'll be checking in. We're checking in all the time. I'm going to take this opportunity to talk about a little UW. You guys, John, do you want to get out? Rosenberg, do you want to get out of here before I do that?
I'll stay. I've watched a couple of the games.
Yeah, I do. Hans Steinbach has been exciting, man. 32 minutes a game, almost 15.7 points and 13 or almost 15 points and 13 rebounds a game, 3.5 assists, almost 2 blocks. This guy's been doing everything as, I believe, a true freshman. Let me check again, but I believe he's a true freshman. He's from Germany. There's the European pipeline for you.
6'11", true freshman, born in 2006. Christ, that makes me feel old.
Versberg.
But yeah, he's been dominating. John Kerry and I talked a little bit about how Zoom's not necessarily starting yet. I think that'll probably change, but he's kind of coming in with Peterson and that second unit and kind of maneuvering there, and they're having Wesley Yates the third kind of be the lead point guard for the start of the game. But
still waiting on Claude to come back.
Yes, yeah. Kamari Peterson.
What were your thoughts on that Baylor game? That was the last big one that happened. It was kind of their first real test.
Did they play another game since then?
I don't think they've played. They play WSU, I think, in 2 days or tomorrow. I guess tomorrow's Friday. The Baylor game, I think they actually held their own decently, and then wheels kind of fell off right at the end there. But I think the youth of this team is still prevalent. I think the last year we had Osabor, and it felt like we, our age and experience could kind of keep us with it. This is a rebuilt Husky team that's kind of, Zoom and Hans Steinbach are going to be the focal points. These recruits, Wesley Yates and the other guys that are coming over in the transfer portal, those are the kind of holdovers. And then, Zoom and Steinbach will be the guys that we see going forward. I think they'll be Huskies for their entire career. So I think as we progress, the recruiting is going to get better. I've really liked what Sprinkle's done with it. Zoom looked actually really good in that Baylor game. 15 points,
Leading scorer.
Yeah. So I think all in all, like, it was just kind of a youth thing, and then we just weren't able to hit enough shots in that one. But overall, very happy with it. They were 3 for 20 from the 3-point line, so it was just like a little tough there.
I think Steinbach's leaving after this year.
No. I think he and Zoom Diallo are going to be the two guys that stay, and then like Kimari Peterson, who we got as like a shooter from. I don't remember where he came from, but he was
1 for 9 from 3.
1 for 9 against the Baylor team. He's a small guy. Like, he's a guy who played at. I need to check that real quick, but he's a guy who played at. It was Eastern Tennessee State or something like that, and he was just like a dead eye shooter, right? Shot 40% from 3 and 47% from 3 in 2025. Averaging 20 points a game. Like, he was a dead eye shooter, but he's 6'1". He's just a little small to be playing all these Big Ten SEC teams. So we'll see how he does as he moves forward. But I think it's a team that's built for the future and be at least competitive in the Big Ten this year. So happy with the Huskies right now.
Yeah, I think there's a lot to like about their team. It's just the two things that aren't to like are real problems on offense, and that's the shooting. Obviously, that's going to come and go a bit, but 3 for 20 is woof. And then the passing, man. I know we're awful spoiled watching Gonzaga basketball, but they had 7 assists in that Baylor game. How do we get better ball movement going on this UW team? Get that ball flying around a little bit more.
I mean, just getting a more pure point guard. Zoom Diallo is more of a scoring guard,
that's the thing. Yeah, he's a guard that likes to score.
Yeah, and then like Wesley Yates is, he's under 2 assists a game his entire career at USC last year, and then this year so far he's averaging 1.3. So it's like these are theoretical like guards are just like scorers, and I would love to see a more point guard oriented guard taking the ball at the court, but we'll see what happens there.
For sure.
Yeah, I think Sprinkle's got a good thing going.
Yeah.
But he's got to figure something out. Last season was tough.
Last season, I think we were all expecting something different with Osibor coming over from Utah State. He was a little underwhelming. I was expecting more because I think he had a decent tournament and had a decent season at Utah State, but he just really wasn't able to get anything going. And I don't know if maybe that was the team we put around him, but he was just kind of unable to do all of the things that he was doing.
I thought he was an NBA guy, man. He was we could have a really long conversation about whether him or Michael Ajayi was the more disappointing transfer last year, but those two have to be right at the top of the list.
Well, it was probably Ajayi. It was more disappointing than Osibor. But, like, Osibor, I think, he's just, like, the quintessential college big of, like, he's 6'9" and thick, and he can kind of just have his way with lots of teams, but not every team.
Yeah, and not in the Big Ten.
I that was just, I think that was kind of tough.
They basically gave him the Draymond Green treatment. Every team in the Big Ten was just like, hey, you got to step into the key. Otherwise, we're just going to give you 10 feet of space and you're going to have to shoot threes. And he just can't shoot threes yet. So maybe he'll improve on that at some point in life. But I'm sure he's playing over in Europe and enjoying it over there.
Hopefully he's not selling cars or
something. He was a UK guy, so I'm sure he's back over there playing in Europe.
Yeah.
Quick jump to Washington State. I said it earlier. There are just a bunch of European dudes, and it's actually kind of insane. I was looking at their roster. There are 5 upperclassmen of their 14 players, and let me count: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 of their players are from not the U.S. There's one from Canada, which we don't technically count, as John said, but they've just got a team that is built of transfers and not a ton of. Like, these are guys, this is the Wazoo pipeline. Like, it's just guys who are young, who are going to play for a year and then transfer somewhere else, or they're from Europe and been around for a little bit and just kind of floating around all over the U.S. It's kind of weird.
I'm worried that the situation with Washington State and Oregon State in both football and basketball is they're just like, the programs are way too volatile for anybody. They're not good enough to convince people to get there despite the volatility. And I think it's just too volatile with them, floating, half in the WCC, waiting for the Pac-12 to start. I think both those programs might just have to give it a couple years. This is the last year before the new Pac forms. They need a conference built and standing, and they need to be there a couple years so people can really get a feel for what these programs are. I think both those programs in multiple sports are really struggling just with the strangeness of their position. But
I agree. I think they've been out at sea for a while, and I think the new pack will help. But
yeah,
Wazoo, I mean, I just think especially right now, Wazoo is just at the mercy of the portal. They're just one of the big losers of this current system, where they're just getting both their football team, basketball team, just getting plundered every year. It's like look at who
Don Mateer.
John Mateer.
Yeah.
Like I mean look at Cam Ward. It's
Yeah.
like, they've been pumping out absolute gems, and then it's just like, oh,
They might go
perfect.
back-to-back number 1 overall picks.
John Mateer is not going to be a number 1 pick, but yeah.
It's just great. I mean, they've just been getting, totally plundered all their good players, and I'm hopeful that a little more stability in the new pack will help that. Like they've had they were actually all right last year. Their basketball team, Oregon State, was actually also pretty good last year, but then they lost. They lost all their guys. Ty went to Baylor.
Dude, they had Cedric Coward, who went to the NBA, and everybody is just like the biggest fan of right now.
Yeah. Where'd this guy come from?
Crazy.
Yeah. He was in the Jan Hansen switcheroo. They picked him. Portland traded up or something to pick him. Or they picked him, and then they traded back with Memphis to send him to Memphis, and then that's where they got Hansen. And everyone was like, "What the fuck did you guys just do?"
Oh, that's
now
funny.
Everyone's on the Hansen train.
Funny how that works.
Me too.
Yeah.
Well, shout out to Washington State. We've been, respectfully trashing them for a couple minutes here, but after starting the year with back-to-back losses to Idaho and Davidson, no, Steph Curry was not playing in a Davidson jersey. I don't know how they lost that one.
They were in Carolina. Davidson's not bad. Come on.
They got their first win of the season over St. Thomas. Tyler, I will give you $1,000 if you can tell me where the St. Thomas Tommies play.
I'm gonna guess Rhode Island.
Minnesota.
Oh, that actually does make sense.
Yeah.
I believe. Does that make sense? Why?
I guess
I was thinking the Twin Cities.
You're thinking
one of
St.
them's a
Paul?
Saint. Oh, St. Paul.
They love their Saints out there.
It's a big Saint community.
I'm pretty sure they're Minnesota. They're like they just
can't even
recently
see.
moved up to D1, if I'm not mistaken. After having
Great for Wazoo to get that dub,
St. Thomas.
Oh, yeah, no. St. Thomas is in St. Paul. Get effed. It is a connection.
Hey, you didn't deserve that.
Well, I got it, baby.
Seattle U, led by Jun Suk Yo, just beat Eastern Washington
Ooh.
yesterday. Eastern Washington 0-4, Seattle U 2-1, and June had 17 points, baby.
Let's go, June.
That Gonzaga to other school pipeline. We love that.
I know. It's the most brutal thing ever, but I'm just going to
Scraps.
try not to think about it, I guess.
I'm not sad about. I'm glad he's going to get his minutes somewhere else.
Yeah,
He just
go get those
didn't
points.
get it. That's fine.
Get your buckets.
It's one thing if it's like if our stars are leaving, then I'd be sad. But if it's like you can have Dusty Stromer. He would have been our 5th best wing on this team.
I forgot about Dusty Stromer. I feel like he has no place on this roster right now.
June and Dusty both wouldn't have seen a moment.
It does feel like you guys have not been able to really secure like a dead eye shooter in a little bit. I don't know. I feel like
Hypothetically, Steel Ventures is that guy. Like,
we'll see how he does.
Yeah.
He was supposed to be stepping into the Corey Kispert shoes. That's how long he's been on this team. We were talking about him and Corey, relatively close to one another.
Yeah.
All right. Well, big game. Wazoo and UW play tomorrow, 8 p.m. That'll be a fun one to watch.
Yep, and then the Gonzaga ASU game, that'll be good as well. All right, Rosenberger, I'm assuming you're heading out. John and I are going to finish discussing all of the Mariners. There's not a ton of Mariners news, but some Mariners news, some Seahawks news, and then give our value dogs. Anything to say before you're out of here?
Yeah, I'm heading out, but pleasure as always, boys. I'll see you next year, or I'll see you.
We'll get the mid-season check-in. Maybe we do a little.
Let's do a second weekend. Maybe we'll still be alive. Let's go.
You guys can prove me wrong during the tournament.
That's right.
I hope we do. Boy, oh boy. All right. Well, pleasure as always, boys. Good
See you,
to
man.
see you, Tyler.
Good to see you.
All right, Tyler, you got to vamp for a minute. I'm going to see him out.
All right. All right. Oh my gosh, look at that. I'm a professional at live streaming. All right. Let me. How do I? It's fine. We can hear them say goodbye. But okay, for the rest of us, this week the Mariners. Not a ton of news on the signing front. The couple Japanese players have posted. Right, Murakami and Okamoto, I believe, has posted. Let me check that real quick. But Murakami has posted, and
Thanks again.
Okamoto has not been posted yet, but he's set to be posted. So those are a couple of exciting pieces. A lot of people are in on the Mariners signing one of these two Japanese prospects, so we will see how that goes. Naylor, obviously, on the Mariners front, as always. The Mariners have been very vocal about that, and we're all, as a unit, hoping to see that continue. Not a ton else on the Mariners. Do you got anything, John? Do you want to talk about Cal Raleigh getting absolutely swindled? That was the word I was thinking about. With the MVP race?
I'm obviously bummed, and I do think it's a tragedy, but at the same time, it's like there was no other possible way that it was going to go. The Mariners could have won the World Series, and I don't think it would have mattered. The fact of the matter is, there is such, and you're just seeing it with the Dodgers. I listened to a podcast the other day where these people were talking about how like great the Dodgers thing is for baseball, and it just made me want to throw up in my mouth. But baseball is the one sport where it's like, they profit more than any other sport on the LA and New York thing because they literally allow those teams to outspend all the other teams to get most of the best players so that they're always in the conversation. So no other sport wants LA and New York to be as dominant as baseball does. And yeah, the New York media thing. And to be fair, Aaron Judge had an awesome season.
Yeah, it was MVP caliber. Like, we're not saying that it wasn't a great season.
It definitely should have been Cal, especially considering that it's Judge's third. Like, voter fatigue is a thing. It doesn't matter if you're in New York. So it's a bummer, but I'm not even a little bit surprised.
Yeah, I think the big thing would have been like I think Cal should have won if the Yankees were like 86 and 76 or whatever it was. Like if they were the wild card or the third wild card, like they were the 6th seed, then I think Cal would have won it handily. But the fact that they won the AL East, right? They won it, right? Or no, that was the Blue Jays that won it. But they were,
but that whole division was so competitive.
Yeah, I think if they either didn't make the playoffs or like were fringe playoffs the entire season, I think Cal wins that pretty handily. I think it was a story of like, oh wow, these teams were both neck and neck. Cal Raleigh carried his team, Judge carried his team statistically, like in the sense that like Cal Raleigh's season was historic. Aaron Judge's season was just like continued greatness, and so you can understand why they voted for Judge. It was super close. I don't know if you looked at the voting, but it was like 17 votes for Judge at one and 13 for Cal. Like that's a really good ratio, and it was basically those two were the top two for vote getters the entire thing.
And that's how you know it should have been Cal. If if a Mariners player is getting 13 MVP votes, they should go ahead and just give him the MVP.
Yeah.
That's it there. But yeah, I think Judge was deserving. It's just, you know what it reminds me of? I feel like it's like quarterbacks always winning the MVP.
Yeah.
Where it's like, whatever, man. But you're just like missing so much. Like Cooper Kupp should have won MVP that year. He had like the Triple Crown, as a receiver. It's like you miss these historic years and you give him Offensive Player of the Year and you move on. But it's like when you look back and I think about, I don't know, what was it? Like the 2021 NFL season, whatever that year is that Cooper went ballistic. He's the one I think about. I'm not sure if that was Mahomes' third MVP. Like, nobody freaking cares. Create a Cy Young for quarterbacks, give it to them, and then let guys that encapsulated the season win the MVP. And the idea that Aaron Judge had more of an impact on this year's baseball season than Cal Raleigh is crazy. Like, when you think about this, when anybody thinks about this year, this was the year that catcher hit 60 home runs. That's what happened.
That's what I was going to say. Is like storyline-wise, Cal makes more sense than Shohei Ohtani. Even it feels like this was in MLB terms, this was the year of Cal Raleigh. Like this was without a doubt, like the first time a catcher hit 60 home runs, the first time a switch hitter hit 60 home runs, like historic stuff. And the fact that Cal didn't win it because people said Judge's statistics were better is just like that's. I think people missing the point of what the MVP really should be, which is like, who was the person, and you had to play great, obviously. You needed to play great. But if it's like, if it was between Julio and Cal, like Julio got the 6th MVP award, and I was like, it didn't feel like Julio was anywhere close to winning, or the sixth in the MVP voting. Sorry, it didn't feel like Julio was anywhere close to it, and it was like, I don't know. I feel like Bobby Witt had a way better season. I don't know. It's become so statistic focused and statistic driven that I feel like the storylines are not encapsulated.
And it's all the same assholes that are like, well, technically, a quarterback is always the most valuable player. Well, it's just like, fucking cool, man. Shut up. Like, that's not what matters.
No.
Way more of it. I get that you should have to meet a certain threshold of, like, personal success and team success. I'm fine with that. But then your impact on the season should be a way bigger component to the MVP in all sports. I think the only sport that I think really gets that is basketball, and it can be frustrating sometimes. It's like, oh, why did Derrick Rose win the MVP over LeBron? Or it's like, man, I remember 2012 or 2011. It's like, everyone was talking about Derrick Rose.
That was the guy.
Was talking about.
Yeah. It's like, it's the fact that Shea even won last year. It's like Shea had a historic, like Shea was the guy that everybody talked about last year in terms of basketball. Yeah. It was like, those are the things that people talked about that year. And the NBA feels like they get it, and the MLB just doesn't, because for whatever reason they're just all stat heads that love data.
And again, Steph Curry won his second one. He almost won unanimously, or maybe he did. But his first one, everyone was like, "Oh, why'd you give him the MVP? It should be LeBron. LeBron's putting up these huge numbers." And it's like, that was as the Warriors were cresting this wave. I think a lot of people in the industry didn't even see like how popular Steph was and how important he was to the sport and how he was changing the sport in real time and all this stuff. But the people watching like felt it, and that's why he won the MVP, is there was just this huge groundswell. And all these people were like, oh, he's averaging like 25 points and 6 assists. LeBron's averaging like 39 and 9. It's like, bro, it doesn't matter. Nobody thinks about 2014 as the year of LeBron James.
No.
This is why Jonathan Taylor needs to win MVP.
You Colt fan, get out of here.
They're going to give it to 44-year-old Matthew Stafford because he's like the best quarterback, and they're not going to give it to a guy who's going to break the all-time touchdown record.
What they really should do is give it to JSN, because Batman is making the Seahawks the best player in the league, or the best team in the league.
Let him share it. Let JT and JSN each hold up one side of the trophy. That would be way better than giving it to Matthew Stafford.
That would be sick. God, if Matthew Stafford wins MVP, I'm going to riot.
He is currently the favorite, I believe, for MVP.
It's freaking crazy. Okay.
Drake May.
That was quick Mariners discussion. We don't really have much else to say about that. Before we jump to that, though, I do want to touch on, first off, the Sounders. They lost to Minnesota in penalty kicks. Tough end of the season for them. But it feels like they were never the best team, so I'm gonna hold my judgment there too much. But I think that was probably about, making the playoffs is always great for the Sounders. I feel like they do that every year, but nothing to write home about as a season.
Yeah,
would you kind of agree?
It was a very disappointing game, just with the way that it played out. I mean, we scored 2 goals in the first 10 minutes of the game, and we're up 2-0. And with this defense being what it's been, this season, and particularly against Minnesota, it's like, oh, this is a lock. We were just going to control this game until the last minute. And, they scored 3 straight goals over the rest of regulation to take it back. So just kind of a failure of defense there. And then Jordan Morris, miracle man, 88th minute goal to tie it. And then he's the guy that misses a penalty, losing penalty 7-6. Just a brutal one in Minnesota. Tough way for the year to end.
Yeah. I want to talk about this because I don't really want to talk about college football this week a ton, but I do want to talk about Jedd Fisch and the openings. No, I don't really want to. It's not a ton to talk about, honestly. WSU had the bye, but UW did lose to Wisconsin, and it was a little bit of a rough game. It was a game that you expect to see when the entirety of the storylines surrounding your football team are, hey, your coach is probably going to leave because his family lives in Arizona now. It's like the kind of thing that everybody on the team sees and then dissociates for the entire weekend, and you lose a game to the 2-6 team in Wisconsin. Give me your thoughts. Jedd Fisch came out with a statement that was like, I don't know why. Like, obviously, there's so many job openings. I get linked to everything because I have this history, but I'm not focused on that. Nothing that I have done or said has indicated that I want these positions. Like, yeah, my family lives there, but I like what I'm doing at Washington. Can you give me either the take of, I am thinking that Jedd Fisch is going to stay, or do you believe in the side that's like he probably will leave just based on how everything's looking? Can you give me just one of those takes, because I need to hear some sort of thing that's not my own head thinking about it.
Yeah, my take is that he's not going to leave. I think that would be a downward move. I think UW is a better program in general, and I also think Big Ten football is way more important than Big 12 football. And to move out of the Big Ten where he's shown he can compete, to go play in a relative, no disrespect to Big 12 fans, but a relative football backwater like the Big 12. There's all this talk about the SEC and Big Ten breaking off and literally forming their own league.
Yeah.
Because all the biggest and best programs are in those two conferences. So I do think it would just be a lateral is generous move to go to either of the Arizona schools. What I do think is like, NIL does not just apply to players. It's like there's been tons of coach movement, and nobody complains when all these Big Ten and SEC teams are firing their head coaches that have signed 10-year deals and throwing them by the wayside. They're like, hey, do better. But you might be upset if your coach leaves for a better opportunity. Like, I was really bummed DeBoer left, and I thought it was a bad career move by him. But, it was certainly his right. It's not like you've been a lifelong UWer. He came into the program, raised us a level, and then went somewhere else. So if Jedd Fisch leaves, the reason I bring that up is his family staying in Arizona may be because he will be at UW as long as he wants to be at UW. I just think he'll want to be at UW a while longer.
I think he's one of those guys that strikes me as I've committed to doing this. These guys that I've talked to are like ready to come to this school. Like, he's a recruiter. He's not as much of a transfer portal guy. Like, yeah, if you're in college football, you have to do a little bit of transfer work, but this guy is known for his ability to recruit guys. Like, this is the kind of thing that we signed up for and wanted as UW fans. Like, this was everything that we hoped for, because DeBoer was really great at the transfer portal, and then he left. That guy, transfer portal guy, also transferred out. We hope that this guy stays in as a recruiting focused coach, and it would just really suck to lose what I do consider to be like a very talented coach who's shown that he can improve programs. Like, as a UW fan, the turnover has been kind of horrible for me. Like, from the time Chris Peterson left, it was I forget what his second, Jimmy Lake, Jimmy something, but that was that coach right after Chris Peterson, and then it was DeBoer, and now it's Jedd Fisch. And it's like, if these coaches keep leaving, you can't establish a baseline and establish like your coach's relationship with the college, which is at this point something that is so lackluster in most of college football. Like, the thing that has stuck around this season feels like the Indiana coach, because he's just turned a program around finally because of the transfer portal. It's like that coach has gotten all this recognition, and it's like, I want that for UW again, because there have been so many great coaches in college football that just like lose themselves in going to different schools and doing all that kind of stuff. Like, I don't even know, Lane Kiffin is like a guy who gets passed around all the time, and I don't associate him with any school just because he's bounced around so much.
Totally. And he's probably going to leave Ole Miss. So. Yeah, I think part of what I would say too is, UW's a great program. It's a very desirable job in college football. If Jedd Fisch is the kind of guy that wants to use UW to get to the next program, then it's kind of like, I always joke about this with, like, I feel like I've talked about this with like relationships, where it's like, why would you worry about like your partner like deciding you're not good enough and leaving? If your partner decides that you're not good enough and leaves, then that's not a person you really wanted to be with in the long term anyway. And if they don't, then they won't. So like, what's there to worry about? Either way, it's a good situation for you. If Jedd Fisch is a guy that wants to go try something at Arizona, then he's not the head coach I want long term at UW. So fare thee well, and we'll bring somebody else in until we find the right guy. And if he wants to stick around, then he is. But like, yeah, I kind of view it that way.
That's fair.
I just can't. And this is the other part too. If DeMond is going to leave, if he's going to transfer, or if he's saying to Jed, I'll go with you wherever you go, it will make it a lot easier to leave. If DeMond is staying at UW, there's no way Jedd Fisch is leaving.
No, he's not leaving if DeMond's staying.
Yeah, a Big Ten, big budget school with a quarterback this versatile and this talented. He's just not leaving.
Yeah. He's also built such a foundation here. It's like to move all of that to Florida would be kind of wild. Like,
Yeah.
he also was talking about how his kid's in like high school and just wants to be back in school, has been moving around for the last 5 years because he's taken a couple different jobs. And it's like, yeah, that actually makes sense for them to just like send the family back there. Like, you guys have the money. You're making millions of dollars at Washington. Like, keep doing what you got to do. Like, I'm not opposed to that in any way. All right. Moving off of that, let's talk Seahawks. This will be the last thing we do before Value Dogs, and then we're out of here. So, Seahawks last week obviously beat the Cardinals. Kind of a smackdown that ended up being a little bit of a comeback, but Dexter Lawrence, 2 touchdowns. Love to see that. And then the offense clicked until they were up 35 points, and then Sam Darnold was like, I'm going to take a breather, throw it off the back of that guy's helmet for an interception. But other than that, like, any qualms from that game? That game felt like it was pretty much a cakewalk.
Man, do you remember when we were talking about, we both lost that value dog pick, by
Yeah.
the way. We were both talking about how competitive this game was. I will say, I think, one, the Seahawks are great. Credit to them. It was not an overreaction. They are awesome.
Yep.
Their defense is incredible. Their offense is incredibly efficient. They are one of the best teams in football, and I'll stop underestimating them. Part of it, too, is they literally had back-to-back strip sack, fumble recovered for touchdowns, and that just completely blew this game open. I think if those 2 plays don't happen, there's a chance this is a much more competitive football game. But with those things happening, yeah, this was just an absolute boat race. Dude, Sam Darnold threw 12 passes in this game.
It was
He threw 3 passes in the second half.
It was
Because
crazy.
the game was over.
It was such a weird
that's
game.
That's almost exactly what happened against the Commanders. You know what's crazy to think is the Seahawks have scored like 80 points combined the last 2 weeks, and Sam Darnold has had 2 fantasy duds.
Yeah.
Because he hasn't done anything in the second half of these 2 games.
It's what else is crazy is like it shows how good this defense is, because this defense is actually like turning in points. Like it's been kind of just a crazy few weeks of the defense really stepping up with the Texans game and then the Commanders game and then this one. It's like this defense is, I think by DVOA, is the best defense in the league, and it feels like they're actually like contributing 10 points a game almost. Like that's how big the defensive swings have been on the Seahawks side.
And this is now 4 straight games where they've won by 8 or more against 4 solid teams. I mean, not the best in the NFL, but far from the worst in the Jags, Texans, Commanders, and Cardinals. Like, those are 4 good, decent football teams. They've won by at least 8 in their last 4. So this team is rolling on all cylinders. I think all eyes go to the Rams game now because obviously these are arguably the 2 best teams in the NFC.
Yeah, let's talk about that now. I want to talk. What do you think I guess we talked last week about the weakness of the Seahawks. Do you think the Rams are going to be able to exploit that? What's the weakness of the Rams? How are we going to match up against them?
So my concern about this game is entirely on one side of the ball. I think we'll be able to score points against the Rams defense. Their defense is solid, but our offenses looked very good. Darnold's looked great. We're going to put up some points. I think the question is our elite defense against their elite offense, because obviously we've seen it go both ways, but there's kind of this idea of great offense beats great defense. The 2013 Seattle Seahawks might have something to say about that paradigm, but there's kind of this notion that what Matthew Darnold is doing with this offense, with Devontae Adams and Puka Nacua and this offensive line and Sean McVay calling the plays, that it doesn't really matter how good the defense they're playing is because they're just going to execute.
Yep.
I think that's where this game is going to be decided. Like, can we slow down this just juggernaut Rams offense? This Rams offense that had, like, the best offensive performance in several years last week, where they scored touchdowns on, like, 5 straight drives or something. They had a crazy, crazy output against the Niners, where they just looked just inevitable offensively.
Yeah, I think the big thing for me when I look at this game is the ability of the Rams defense to actually, they're really good against the run. So what this game to me comes down to is, can the Seahawks do what they've been wanting to do on offense, which is bait the run out and then complete passes to JSN. I worry that they're only going to get like one explosive play on the day, and it's going to be like a Rashid Shaheed kind of back route where they just go across the field and that's it. I think it's a real question of like, how is JSN going to do this week? Because this Rams defense, in terms of total points allowed, I believe is number 2 in the NFL right now. They're a little scary, and we will see how this game, like, this is a real prove it showcase for, I think, our offense. I'm actually on the other side of the ball, or other side of the opinion there. I think this is a Seahawks defense can do their thing. We'll see how Matthew Stafford does against a really good defense. But I think the Seahawks offense, this is their first real test of the season.
It's kind of one of those things where it's strength on weakness, but maybe in a way that's good for the Seahawks, where it's like, oh, the Rams are going to stuff your running game. And it's like, dude, our running game's been stuffed all year. We're just going to
That's true.
Over the top. It's like, oh, are we going to average 2 yards a carry with our running backs? It's like, it doesn't affect us any. So we'll see. We'll see. But it'll be a really fun matchup. Rams are really good. Yeah, probably the game of the season so far for the Seahawks, especially with these last 2 performances. Rams are favored to win, which honestly I'm surprised by, because again, the last 2 games we played have been over by halftime. Like, our quarterback is throwing twice in the second half over.
I mean, the Rams won 35-7 against the Jaguars, then 34-10 against the Saints, and then last week 42-26 against the 49ers. So both teams have been on quite a bit of a tear.
Yeah. This is exciting, man. This is the game of the early season.
It's the game of the year so far. Like, this is definitely, like, it's a NFC West rivalry matchup. Like, this is the game. I think it's pretty divided in terms of where the, like, sports pundits actually think which team's going to win. Like, I think everybody's either all in on the Seahawks or all in on the Rams, and it's like you kind of have to pick one. I think both these teams are really good, and there's literally, this could be the NFC Championship. Like, it's to the point where this could be the matchup, which is kind of crazy.
Yeah. I think it's kind of a coin flip, just because of how dominant both teams are going to be, and just struggling to picture how this is going to play out.
Yep.
I think it's kind of a coin flip game, but I'll give you a little tease for value dogs. One of these teams is favored, and the other team is getting points. I think you'd be an idiot not to take the team with points.
Do you have the notes up, or are you looking at my value dogs?
No, I'm shooting blind, man. I was just going to shoot from the hip on value dogs this week. So it sounds like you and I might be on the same page.
Might be on the same page for that one.
I'm dead serious. This is exactly, by the way, how I won. I picked Bills over Chiefs because they were getting points.
Yep.
So if you're looking at 2 juggernauts, take the one with points. It's just a little bit of an edge.
Yeah. Okay. Quick Seahawks predictions. I'm gonna call that the Seahawks. This is an emotional hedge, right? This is an emotional hedge. I'm gonna say it's Rams 24, Seahawks 22. That's my prediction. What do you got?
Yeah, I feel like it's gonna be weirder than that. I'm gonna say it's gonna be Seahawks. I'm gonna say Seahawks 35, Rams 31. I'm calling
big score
here. Yeah.
All right. Well, we've been potting for an hour and a half already. Let's do the value dogs and get the frick out of here, man. Last week I went 1-2, you went 2-1 to bring our records back to even at 14-13, as we always do. Underdogs on the season are 66, 80-3 against the spread, so they're hitting 44.5 against the spread. So we are actually pretty significantly above the average there when it comes to against the spread rating on our underdog or value dog picks. For those of you that are new here, value dogs are basically every week John and I take 3 underdogs. Each of us takes 3 underdogs, and we don't usually look at each other's, or we try not to match, but we will see. This week we had the earlier part of this pod, so we've had a lot going on. Haven't checked each other's value dogs, but we basically take 3 underdogs that are that we think can cover the spread each, and we give those to you as free picks. You guys win some money on these. I'm gonna let John go first and lead us off, big boy.
I'll just get it out of the way because we were just talking about it. I would love to take a hit on the Jets-Patriots game, but it's going on behind me in the background. So I'm going to have to leave that one untouched. Instead, I will take the Seahawks +3 against the Rams. I think this is Goliath versus Goliath. I have no real idea how it's going to turn out. But the Seahawks have literally needed 2 quarters to win each of their last 2 games, and they're getting points. So I don't know how I could possibly not take that.
Yeah, the weird thing is, it's like, where is the weak link in this game? It's like the Seahawks and Rams defenses are both amazing. The Seahawks and Rams offenses are both amazing. Like, both of them are
amazing.
Like, all the coaching things are good.
Coaches,
Special teams, like everything is really good for both of these teams. it's basically even. I have the same thing. Take the points, man. It's +3 for the Seahawks. I probably would have done it for the Rams too. Like it's
100%.
Yeah.
100%. I'd take the Rams +3.
Yeah. So we're in agreement there. With my technical first pick, but my second of the list, I have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers +5.5 against the Bills. The reason that the Bills are -5.5 here is because they need this game, and Tampa Bay's been a little injured. But Tampa Bay has shown over the course of this season that they are very good, and they're probably without Bucky Irving for this week as well, I believe. But they've shown that like they're going to be within 3 to 5 points of every single game if they're not winning it. Like they're 6-3 now on the season. Like they're a good team. Yes, the Bills need it, but Josh Allen has not been super sharp on the season, and I'm just taking 5.5 points for the leading NFC South team that's going to be in the playoffs. Like this is a playoff team.
Yeah, I think that's a good pick. The Bills are really stumbling right now, and I do believe in their ability to bounce back and win this game. But again, so easy to win that within a 5.5 point margin. So I think that's a great bet. I'm going to talk about a game that if Seahawks Rams wasn't happening, this would be the game everyone's talking about, and that's Lions getting 2.5 points against the Eagles. Another great game, probably the other two best teams in the NFC.
Yep.
I would bet a large sum of money that one of those four teams is going to walk out of the NFC to represent in the Super Bowl. Lions +2.5 is a little bit baffling to me because unlike the Rams-Seahawks game, if it was Eagles +2.5 against the Lions, I think I'd stay away. I think the Lions are so good, man. I think
they kind of need it. The Bears are right behind them. They're both 6-3.
100%. They need it, and I just think they're a better team than the Eagles. The Eagles have gotten away with so much bullshit, and there's been so much kind of randomness and luck involved with their season so far. Jalen Hurts has been so up and down. A.J. Brown is officially dead. I'm not sure you heard. They declared him dead on the field. It's kind of sad when you think about it. But the Lions have just... I think people were just thinking Ben Johnson would take the offense with him, and Ben's been really good in Chicago. Again, nipping at the heels, but... this Lions offense has not missed a beat. And if anything, they're finally right around now rounding back into form.
Yeah.
Their win last week was incredibly dominant. Their ground game was ferocious. I think they're just a better team on both sides of the ball than this Eagles team. And they're getting 2.5 points.
Yeah, I tell you what, when every week I'm doing my work league in the like pick'ems, and this week I just took the Lions. Like I didn't even take the points. I just took the Lions to win this game. I believe that the Lions are going to win this one. So getting 2.5 points there, very valuable. For my third and final pick, I am going to go with, this is a storyline bet. This is like everybody is sniffing out the Ravens coming back in the AFC North, and I am trying to be on that trend right now. And the Steelers have just been completely falling off the wagon a little bit the last couple of weeks, or I guess this last week. They stomped the Colts 2 weeks ago. Bengals +5.5 against the Steelers. This game is going to be at least 35-40, if not 38-42. Like it's going to be so high scoring, and I think the Bengals are just built to outscore the Steelers team. Like weapons-wise, the Bengals obviously have everything that they need. So I think this is going to be high scoring game, and anything like that, I like the Bengals covering 5.5 points there. It feels right.
That's funny. This is my third pick. So we will share two.
There we go.
I believe we're going to bounce back big because I believe a lot in both our shared picks. Yeah, I like this for a couple of reasons. The Bengals offense with Joe Flacco at the helm is exceptionally competent.
Yes.
They are going to put up points. And the Steelers are the frauds of the season by far. Everyone looked at that Colts game and they're like, oh, maybe there's something here. They needed 4 turnovers, 3 in Colts territory to generate 27 total points. That's one of their high marks on the season. This offense is not good. No. Aaron Rodgers is not good. Their defense is incredibly up and down. Bengals are going to score. I don't believe in the Steelers to score with them. I might take Bengals straight up, but I'll take the points for sure.
Yeah, I think we're both like pretty dialed in there. I think that's a really good line for us to match on. All right, dude. That's it. That's our value dogs. We just potted for almost 2 hours. That might be the longest pod we've done in a year or two. Anything to say before I get us out of here, man?
I'm exhausted. We need to get you to bed.
Yeah. Well, for John Carey, I'm Tyler Cartwright. This has been the Sound Up Seattle podcast. If you're enjoying this episode on YouTube, feel free to drop a like, subscribe, do all that good stuff. Check us out if you're not enjoying this on YouTube. We are live on YouTube as we record this. It's a little sporadic depending on our work schedules and when we can get people on the pod, but we're Wednesday or Thursday each week. Other than that, if you're listening on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you're listening, drop a like, follow, do all that good stuff. And you can find us on Instagram, TikTok, Twitter at SoundUpSeattle, all lowercase, all one word. You can email us questions, comments, concerns at soundupseattle@gmail.com. You can find me, Tyler, at TyCart50, everywhere is important. And you can find John?
Just hold on for my life in every single one of my fantasy leagues, man. I cannot tell you how much I'm like right in the middle of the pack, but I really like my roster. I believe I can make a run, but I just by my fingernails holding on in all three. So wish me luck, everybody.
Dude, in our league, Cam Scadaboo injury just kind of ruined me, but the fact that I'm in last place in that league feels insane. I'm 3-7, and I feel like my team is still good. Like it's the luck has been so weird in that one.
It's been a competitive league too, and part of it's just 12-man of like nobody's terrible because nobody's great. Everybody's pretty middling, so I don't think you'll actually end up in last place. But yeah, you're in last place at 3-7. I'm in 5th place out of 12 at 5-5. So everything's up in the air. Everything's for grabs.
Yeah, it's a weird fantasy season, man. Been a weird one. I just got my first win in my 0-9 team last week, so hoping I can. I still got a 1% playoff odds chance, so I'm hoping I can come back there. Ugh.
Yeah, well, Trevion's putting on a show for me right now, so he's gonna help.
Yep, for sure. All right, man. I will let us both get out of here, and for those of you listening, have a great one.